Hi there, Sandy Freshy here with another video. Thank you so much for tuning in. Today we're going to be talking about manifesting generators and what makes them different. Did you know that there are actually two categories or types of manifesting generators? If you're a manifesting generator or you know manifesting generators and you want to know what makes them tick and what makes them different, then this video is for you. So let's get started. What defines a manifesting generator on the human design chart is a defined sacral center and a defined throat center that is also attached to a motorized center. So a motorized center is a center that kind of generates or moves energy within the body, and those centers would be the sacral center, the root center, the emotional solar plexus, or the will center, which is also known as the heart or ego center. So any of these four motorized centers could be connected to the throat, and then the sacral center would also be defined. The two types or categories of manifesting generator are known as the pure manifesting generator and the emotional manifesting generator. So can you guess which motorized center is defined on a manifesting generator's chart in addition to the sacral center? That would be the emotional solar plexus, right? So if you're a manifesting generator and you have an emotional authority, it means that you are an emotional manifesting generator with this emotional solar plexus defined. If you are a pure generator, your emotional solar plexus is undefined and your throat is connected to either the sacral center, the will center, or the root center. So let's take a look at some various charts of pure manifesting generators and emotional manifesting generators, and you're going to get an idea of the nuances that color the sacral response. Remember that manifesting generators as well as generators have that defined sacral motor, and that is their primary inner knowing guidance system. Manifesting generators as well as generators have a strategy to wait to respond, and they're responding with this sacral response of the guttural sounds that come out of their mouth in response to what's getting their sacral or gut motor going. Sometimes for manifesting generators it's very difficult to get a handle on what's coming out of their mouth that is a response to what is coming into their life. And when we look at the nuances of their human design chart, we can kind of see and piece together how the particulars of their mechanics works. So let's take a quick look at some various different charts that would be categorized first as pure manifesting generators, and then we'll look at some that can be categorized as emotional manifesting generators. So here's an example of a pure manifesting generator, and in the strictest sense, with the sacral center being defined and the throat center being defined through the 3420 channel, this would be the purest of all pure manifesting generators. So this channel of the 3420 is also the only channel that runs directly from the sacral motor to the throat for expression. So this is the only energy that has no other center in between that can step down this sacral motorized energy to sustain life force in an ongoing way. And as you can tell, the emotional center is not defined in this chart. The spleen is defined, so this person has the sacral motor defined, which is their primary inner guidance system, but there's also this splenic energy, this energy of instinct and knowing in the moment that is hardwired to survival and vitality. And this can sort of back up or be an informant because it's attached to the sacral center. It can be sort of a backup and extra information that sort of feeds into this energy of the sacral. And at the same time, the sacral motor also fuels the instinct and survival and vitality energy of the spleen. So you can see how those two are communicating back and forth. But the sacral center is that primary energy that's moving very fast up to the throat for expression without any sort of influence from the emotions over on the right hand side. So this person's system or hardwiring for getting clarity and understanding what's best for them happens purely through this experience of their sacral response. And here's another example of a pure manifesting generator. The sacral center is defined, the throat center is defined, but it's not defined through the 3420 channel. It's actually defined via the G center, which is the center for love, identity, and direction. So there's a channel that moves from the sacral to the G center, and then another channel that moves from the G center to the throat. So this is how the connection between this motorized energy of the sacral is actually expressed through the throat. And again, the emotional solar plexus is not defined. So the pure manifesting generator usually has a pretty quick or immediate relationship with their sacral response because it is either moving quickly through this 3420 channel or it's moving in some sort of way that isn't hardwired into the emotional ups and downs, which really require time in order to move through that energy, to move through the emotional chemistry for ultimate clarity about what's going on with the sacral response and what actions need to be taken. So let's go ahead and look at some examples of the emotional manifesting generator, and you'll get an understanding of how the emotions kind of color the sacral response in that respect. So here's an example of an emotional manifesting generator's chart. And you can see that the sacral center is defined and the emotional center is defined, and the root and the emotional center are moving their motorized energy up to the throat for expression. In this case, the sacral is kind of connected to this whole process and movement, and yet it's the emotional solar plexus that kind of has the loudest voice in this case. So if we're talking about the mechanics of the strategy and authority, there's the sacral response. The motor gets going in response to something that is happening in this person's environment, and then they have to wait until their emotions move through a full cycle in order to really get clarity about what they're responding to and how or if they actually need to use their energy to take action. In this person's hardwiring of their emotions, they've got a wave that kind of spikes up and spikes down and can get kind of melancholy, dramatic at times, and therefore they don't really want to make decisions during those times when they're either on a high or a low. And that's actually true of all of the different types of emotional waves. This one just happens to manifest as something a little bit more dramatic or more palpable for the people who have this type of hardwiring, the 2212 and the 3955. So this is one example of an emotional manifesting generator's chart. So here's another example of an emotional manifesting generator's chart. And if you remember, in the last chart, the sacral, the root, the emotional solar plexus were all connected, and it was like one continuous circuit up to the throat. In this particular chart, the sacral and the root are connected via this 360 channel, but if you notice, it's not connected to, neither the sacral or the root are connected to the emotional solar plexus. So when I see something like this, I know that this person probably has a sacral response that isn't necessarily talking to their emotional wave. And this is where it's important for someone with a chart like this to, first of all, understand the nuances of their mechanics, the nuances of how their sacral relates to their emotions or not. And then it's really important for them to get a good embodied feel of that. Now, sometimes people already have that and they understand what that is, and sometimes it takes a little bit of feeling into the chart, of understanding what the circuitry is about, of understanding how this person really relates to their body. And there are layers and layers of nuance within the chart that would give us clues as to how that works for them. But I hope you can kind of get a sense, if you are an emotional manifesting generator, that it isn't just about waiting to respond and then waiting for your emotions, which is purely the mechanics of it. But along the way, it's kind of like you have to feel your way into how that specifically works for you. So if you want to know a little bit more about this, if you're having trouble getting in touch with your sacral response, and you've heard as a manifesting generator that this is really important in order for you to stay out of frustration, and you're tired of maybe running into frustration and not really understanding how to tap into your inner guidance system, I am available for one-to-one sessions, and I will leave some information along with this video of how you can get in touch with me if you're interested in exploring that avenue. So thank you so much again for tuning into this video. I hope you found it interesting. If you like this video, like it. If you are not subscribed to my channel, please, I invite you to subscribe and hit the little notification bell so that you will be notified when more videos are uploaded. And until the next time, be well.